I was enjoying my perfect Friday night watching my favorite YouTuber's latest video when it got interrupted by a phone call. "Tessa, the cops arrested me! Dress as my mom and come bail me out!" That was Katie, my annoying cousin. She's the biggest troublemaker I know, which is why my aunt sent her to live at my house, in hopes that we could help change her attitude. Poof! So now I have to sneak into Mom's closet and borrow some of her clothes. How do I apply makeup to look older? Ugh, that'll have to do. So, officer, what trouble's she in this time? She vandalized a car. Not me, Mom. Blame the dumb car that got in my way. Jeez, if I were really Katie's mom, I would let her rot in jail until she came to her senses. I was about to lead Katie out of there when a boy grinned at me and said, "Madam, can you bail me out too?" Sorry, but no. You're not my problem. Okay, well, then can you at least give me your number? I spotted Katie frown at him, then she pulled on my arm. Let's go home, Mom. Katie, can't you grow up? I can't cover for you forever. You'll do it, else I may just accidentally slip out your little secrets to your parents. Ugh, that threat sure is getting old. Okay, so I didn't bail out Katie out of choice. You see, she has something over me. The thing is, I have a passion for baking, but my parents think this is a waste of time. I knew they'd never knowingly pay for my cooking classes, so I told them I needed money to join an extra study class. I know it sounds bad, but I did apply to work at a coffee shop bakery so I could pay them back while also gaining experience. But then Katie discovered my secret, and now she's using it to control me. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I arrived home to find my parents waiting up for me in the living room. Tessa, you were out partying, weren't you? Why do you keep on disobeying us? And is that my dress? Why can't you be more like Katie? She's really improved her grades. I turned around to see that Katie was nowhere to be seen. She must have quickly escaped through the back door to her room. What a minx! But my parents still believed she's the golden girl. Poof! It's rubbish, of course. The good grades she brought home were all by cheating. If it weren't for Katie knowing my secret, I so would have exposed her by now. Actually, besides Katie, there's also Celia, my best friend, who also knows about this. She may be a hothead, but when it comes to my secrets, I know her lips are sealed. Hey, Tessa, you have to see this. Celia waved her phone in my face. Hang on, that was BitKit Bakes, my all-time fave YouTube channel. I'd been following this guy for ages. He was so talented. Oh, and he always wore this cute kitty mask. Look at his hands. They're so beautiful. And how I adore his warm voice. I bet he's really handsome, too. Celia is so smitten with boys. Ugh, it's Katie again. She's left her lipstick in the canteen and I've got to fetch it for her and take it to some cafe in town. This is ridiculous. I'm sure she could survive without her stupid lipstick for one afternoon. I walked into the cafe and spotted Katie sitting with two boys. Wasn't that the boy from the cop station? Turns out he's called Max, and he's Katie's new boyfriend. And the other guy is Cody. Both of them are college students. Hey, Tessa, you should stay for cake. Seeing as I was here, I may as well have something sweet, right? So I ignored Katie's eye rolls in my direction and joined them. The waiter brought some chocolate fudge cake over and, yum, it sure looked good. I took a forkful of it and, something wasn't quite right. This cake could use some salted caramel. Poof, a cake needs to keep its original flavor. If you add that to it, it'll be far too sweet. Oh, how rude. I was only voicing my opinion. Right at that moment, Celia phoned me. I just answered when she started screaming so loudly, and I had to hold my phone away from my ear. Tessa, Tessa, Tessa! Celia, is everything okay? I know how to impress the BitKit Bakes guy. We must make him a DIY gift. A chocolate resin phone case. What do you think? Am I a genius or what? I noticed Max, Cody, and Katie all giving me strange looks. Jeez, this was so embarrassing. So I quickly hung up on Celia, then made my excuse to leave. Ugh. I liked it better when only I knew about BitKit Bakes. I watch his videos every day and daydream about baking with him. But now Celia's obsession over him was kinda tiring me out. She texted me nonstop to ramble about him and dragged me into her silly fan projects. She even joined this online fan club of his, and they all talked about how fit he looks, how handsome he must be. Hello, does anyone here really care about cooking? At least work meant I had a break from Celia's mithering. Ugh, what was he doing here? He bought 2 cups of coffee, then asked to borrow my phone because his was out of battery. I reluctantly handed over my precious phone, but then I heard a ringtone. Max excitedly took his ringing phone out of his pocket and said, "So now I have your phone number, cute girl." What? The cheek of him! I'm his girlfriend's cousin. Has he no shame? I gave him a dumbfounded look, but he just smiled, handed back my phone, and winked at me. "I saved my number in your phone. Give me a call." Then he left. He'd just reached the door when I snapped out of my daze. The phone case. Our chocolate phone case. Why did he have it? It's one of a kind, and we've already sent it to BitKit Bakes. Didn't we? I was about to run after him to clear this up when Katie appeared. "Max, why did it take you so long to buy coffee?" Then she stormed over to the counter as soon as she spotted me. "Stay away from my boyfriend, or your secret goes parent public, okay?" Katie glared at me and dragged Max away. Even though they were leaving, I could still hear her voice. "Don't talk to that girl. I don't like her." Huh? What on earth? Who wants her boyfriend anyway? How irritating. One evening, I was lying on the couch and thinking about whether Max could really be BitKit Bakes when Celia excitedly ran over. "I have our mysterious idol's phone number!" Oh no, here we go again. Celia was way too excitable sometimes. "So, a secret source that's in the fandom sent it to me. I wonder if this is his real number." You really believe that's BitKit's number? Let's just give it a try. We have nothing to lose. It would be a lie to say I wasn't any tiny bit curious. So I entered the phone number, and as soon as I pressed the call, Max's name appeared on the screen. Huh? What's this? I quickly hung up and turned to tell Celia that it was just a fake number. If Max is really our idol, then I don't want Celia getting muddled up with my crazy cousin's love life. Celia just shrugged and said, "It's okay. I'll find another way." Then she did that sticking tongue-out concentration face of hers as she fiddled around on her phone. The next day, I got home from my shift feeling a little worn out, but Celia still wouldn't give me a break. She came right over and dragged me out somewhere. "Where are we going?" I asked, but Celia just kept silent. Then we stopped in front of a small white house. At that point, Celia said, "My source says this is BitKit Bakes' home. We're about to meet the most amazing guy ever." Before I could react, Celia ran to ring the doorbell. And as soon as the door opened, standing in front of us were Max and Katie. "Tessa, why are you here?" "You know him?" This is Max, Katie's boyfriend. We were on our way to a friend's party, but it seems like we have the wrong house. Sorry for bothering you." Then I hurriedly pulled Celia's hand to leave. But Max stopped us. "Oh yeah? Then you must have come to the right house. We're having a party, so join us." I quickly waved my hand to refuse, but Celia immediately said, "That would be great." And then, ignoring Katie's death stares, pulled me inside. So turns out Max lives here with Cody and this guy called Trevor. I'll find out which of these 3 boys is our idol. Wait for it. Celia made up some excuse about loving their decor and wanting to see the rest of it for inspiration. Trevor, who seemed to like her, jumped at the opportunity to show her around. Meanwhile, I wandered into the kitchen to try and solve the BitKit Bakes mystery myself. Max was in there making himself an egg sandwich, but oh my god, Had he never touched a whisk before? He's so clumsy. I don't think there would be much of the egg left in the bowl after he's done whisking. The kitchen counter was full of food for the party, so I decided to give them a hand. Let's see. I spotted a bowl of cookie mixture, which looked like it could use some special ingredient, so I reached for the jar of sugar. And as expected, a hand stopped me. But, Cody? What are you doing? You use brown sugar for cookies, not white. You don't want to end up with a load of air pockets, do you? Yes, of course I knew that. And I also knew BitKit had once said those exact words in one of his previous clips. So, the anonymous idol is Cody? But Max's phone case was the one we sent to our idol, and the idol's phone number that Celia found was also Max's. This was so confusing, and I needed answers, so I asked Max to go outside with me. You aren't BitKit Bakes, right? Why do you have that phone case? Oh, so you figured it out! Yeah, I know you sent it to Cody, so I intercepted it. I'm also the anonymous fan who gave Celia this address. It's fate, baby. You and me are meant to be together. Then he lunged towards me with outstretched arms. Oh my God, did he have tentacle arms or something? I couldn't escape from his grip. Then who should appear but, Katie. She charged over, then pushed me, falling to the ground. Cody appeared and tried to stop the fight, but Katie's flailing arms knocked into him and caused his wrist to brush against the hot barbecue grill. I quickly went to check on Cody, but Katie just screamed out, "I hate you!" then ran off with a shameless Max in hot pursuit. We then went to Cody's room to get the first aid box. Hang on, I recognize that mask. Don't worry, I'll keep your secret. But maybe this arm shouldn't be on screen for a while. Celia has, the best detective sense. Yeah, I guess. I'm thinking maybe a cute girl like you should wear the cat mask for the next few videos. What do you think? Are you sure? Your fans might speculate that the girl would have some kind of special relationship with you. Gosh, what am I saying? Wake up, Tessa. I should go. Right. There's something important waiting for me to handle at home. What a messy day. I couldn't carry on being under Katie's control any longer. I needed to confess all to my parents before she told them. Only, when I walked through the door, I heard these weird sounds coming from the living room. It was Katie bawling her eyes out on the couch. I ignored her and was about to go upstairs, but suddenly, she ran over to me and hugged me. Tessa, I'm so sorry for pushing you. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. I just really love Max, and it breaks my heart knowing he's such a womanizer. It's okay, but you seriously deserve way better than that jerk. So Katie and I made up, and she also promised that she wouldn't blab my secret to my parents. But I want to tell them the truth. I mean, I can't lie to them forever, right? And when they see how much baking means to me, they'll support me, right? Hey guys, so I entered a baking contest and invited my parents along. And guess what? I won the Best Newcomer prize. Eek! Better still, my parents congratulated me and told me that if I loved baking this much, I should follow my dreams. Oh, and I did use the prize money from the contest to pay them back. Cody's been a massive help. He's given me some great tips and, actually, we've started dating. It's early days, but being with him makes me feel as happy as eating freshly made cookies. And as for Celia, well, she's still pretty convinced that Trevor's her idol. One day I'll introduce her to the real BitKit Bakes. Soon. Hey, it's me, Haley, back again. So, in the last part of my story, my club leader, Miss Anderson, made me audition for my lead part. And all because this new girl, Anna, couldn't accept the rules. I wasn't that worried about it. I mean, the part was already mine, right? Only when I showed up for the audition, Miss Anderson suddenly went crazy at me, then gave my part to Anna. I didn't understand. How could Miss Anderson just give away my part? I hadn't even had a chance to sing yet. I stood there confused when one of the other newbies came over to me and said, "Why are you so late? Miss Anderson's mad at you. She's been waiting for you for over an hour. I checked the clock. No, I wasn't late. I always showed up to auditions early. Always. I ran after Miss Anderson to try and explain, but she wouldn't let me talk. Haley, I'm so disappointed in you. You're undisciplined and irresponsible, and I don't want to hear your excuses. You're meant to be a role model for the new members. Has the celebrity disease already gotten to you? You won't be able to go very far with this attitude, young lady. And I can't believe Anna was right about you, she mumbled out, then walked away. I was so stunned, so I remained standing there like a statue. It would have helped if I knew what was going on. The audition was at 10:30. I was sure of it. Then Kurt walked by. I was hoping he would explain to me what was going on, but instead he just said, "That's what you get for hanging out with boys, instead of focusing on your career. Anna deserves that part instead of you." My heart sank. How could my best friend say such a horrible thing, and without even taking the time to hear me out? Feeling disheartened, I flopped down on the nearest bench. Tears were about to flow out of my eyes when Eric appeared out of nowhere and said, "Haley, I've been looking for you everywhere. You didn't even answer my phone. You've missed the audition, right?" I wiped away my tears. "Yeah, I don't understand. Has today's audition been rescheduled or something? No one told me a thing. Oh, and my phone. I must have left it in my locker yesterday. I've checked the GPS. It's still at school." Eric raised his eyebrow. "Wait, you don't have your phone? And you didn't know that the match was changed to 9 a.m.? I heard Anna tell Miss Anderson that you asked for it because you would be busy at 10:30, wasn't it? Miss Anderson was already pretty unimpressed that you didn't even tell that yourself to her." I gave him a confused look and replied, "What? No? Who said that? I'm not busy. Even if I was, I would never get someone else to tell Miss Anderson for me." Eric then grabbed my wrist and said, "Come with me." We went back to the room where the match was supposed to be held, and Anna was still there, laughing with her friends. Eric told them to leave, as we needed to have a private talk with Anna. She looked surprised at Eric's attitude, but she told her friends to go. Then Eric looked at her and said, "I know what you did. Now, are you going to tell the truth, or wait for me to expose it?" Smirking, she just shrugged and said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." "That's strange, because the rescheduling was your idea, and it turns out Haley wasn't busy at all. Also, her phone's disappeared. Now, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I mean, I did hear you yesterday talking to your friends about hiding someone's phone. I thought you were playing a prank on someone in class, but now it all makes sense." Anna went quiet and glued her eyes to the floor as I kept staring at her, waiting for an answer. "So?" Eric's patience was running out. Anna let out a sigh, then rolled her eyes. "Fine. It was me. I just wanted the part, okay? I'm far more talented than Haley is." I was fuming. How could she be so vicious? Surely, gaining a part fairly was far more rewarding than gaining it like this. I tried to keep calm as I turned to Eric and whispered, "Thanks for all your help, Eric, but I think Anna and I need to have a little chat." Eric nodded. Then he told me he'd be waiting outside. I said, "Why, Anna? Isn't a fair chance all you wanted? Why do you keep coming at me?" At first, she didn't say anything. She just fiddled with her bracelet. But then she replied, It's because you're always in the spotlight, and all Kurt sees is you. I joined Swing Club just because of Kurt, but it's so frustrating to see you with him. Why do you have to get everything, both Kurt and the lead role?" "Kurt? No, there's nothing between us, Anna. Seriously, nothing. We've been best friends since, forever. That's all." Anna sighed. "Okay, you caught me out. Now just let me leave already." I watched her go, as it wasn't like we had anything else to talk about. After that, Anna didn't bother me anymore. I guess she thought she'd be in enough trouble when I told Miss Anderson the truth. Only, I never did. I mean, I thought about it, but my anger faded out, so I decided to give her this one. There was no denying she was an ambitious girl like me, just that her action was led by the wrong drive. I'd let it slide this time, and this time only. Eric didn't understand it at all. He kept telling me it was my part, and I should go and get it back. But the truth was, it didn't feel like my part anymore. I told him that I'd already figured out how to let it go and move my focus onto the next thing. The day of the show arrived, and I was in the dressing room sorting out costumes when Anna came over to me and said, "Why didn't you tell Mrs. Anderson what I did?" I replied, "I thought about it, but then I decided not to. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't cool of you to do what you did, but I hope you've learned your lesson. I'll let you have this one." She looked touched and thanked me. We smiled at each other and agreed to restart fresh and leave all problems behind. And next time, we would compete friendly and fairly with our real capability. After that, we became friends. We started hanging out, Eric too, and on occasions, Kurt. I always tried to drag him along with us. I think he and Anna would make the cutest couple, but he always seems like he has something on his mind. Anyway, the concert for Swing Club's anniversary was around the corner, and we all knew this was the biggest show of the year. Everyone would be there, including professionals. The newbies had been there over 3 months, so all could try out for the lead roles. Everyone wanted the opening or closing solos. I tried out for the closing solo spot, and naturally, so did Anna. Only this time, we practiced together and competed fairly. Eric and I even prepared a duet. The other kids kept telling us our voices complemented each other. Turns out, they were right. Plus, I liked singing with Eric, as it also meant I had an excuse to hang out with him even more than normal. After practice, we'd go and grab a burger, go to the park, or go and watch a movie. Being around him made me smile so much my face ached. But I don't know. We were just friends, right? So, the parts for the concert were chosen via a casting day, where everyone in the club got to vote for their favorites. A massive crowd formed outside of the notice board and waited in anticipation for Miss Anderson to pin the results up. I pushed through the crowd and read the results. OMG! I did it! I had the closing solo, and I also secured the duet with Eric, who also won the opening solo, which I was super stoked about, as he really deserved it. Anna was a bit disappointed, of course, but she seemed genuinely happy for me, as she still got in with a duet and another group performance. She ran over and hugged both Eric and me in celebration. Then suddenly, Kurt violently grabbed his backpack, which caused Eric's to fall to the ground. Then he just walked over it and stormed off. What's with him? That's so not okay. I ran after him and demanded to know what his problem was. Kurt, what's wrong with you? I know that you're very sad for not getting the spot. I'm so sorry. But could you at least not be so rude? Especially in front of the whole club. He turned around and yelled at me.
Yeah, so what? Easy for you to say. You get what you want, don't you?
That's not what I meant, but come on. It's fair play. Everyone voted. You couldn't blame...
Oh, right. Now thinking about it, I bet you voted for your Prince Eric, not me. It's not like I can ever compete against him, is it, Haley?
I just shook my head and walked off. This was so absurd. Since when did he become so childish and headstrong? Who was he to yell at me? I hadn't even done anything. I walked back to the board, and everyone was talking about going out for dinner to celebrate. But I wasn't in the mood, so I made an excuse and left first. Eric must have noticed that and offered to drive me home. In the car, I told him I was sorry for Kurt's behavior earlier. Eric was all cool and comforted me, trying to calm me down, and talked about stuff so I could forget about it. Then he took me to an old outdoor stage in the park. We sat there on the hood of his car, and he told me about how seeing a street artist right on this stage when he was little had inspired him to be who he is today. Every time he felt doubtful about his dream or nervous before a show, he'd come here to find peace of mind. He's right. This place is so nice. With the cool breeze and a beautiful view, I felt so at ease already. I wasn't sure if that was because of this magical place, or it's just because I was with Eric. Strange to admit, but I always felt so comfortable around him. We could chit-chat about anything on Earth from dawn till dusk. Then suddenly, there was an awkward silence. He called my name, but his head was turning away.
Haley?
Hey, Haley here again. So, in the last episode, Eric had gone to LA to become a singing sensation, while I was left at home, missing him like crazy. When he told me he was performing his debut stage, I decided to go to LA and surprise him. Only, my plan failed miserably when I showed up at the wrong address. Then his manager, Will, answered the phone and told me Eric was too busy to meet me. Naturally, I felt bummed out. But Anna and Kurt insisted on cheering me up, so they took me to Disneyland. Okay, so I tried to have fun. I really did. But everywhere I looked, I saw lovey-dovey couples. Anna and Kurt seemed to be growing closer. They kept on taking pictures together. As happy as I was for them, this reminded me that Eric wasn't here with me. Then, when I was deep in thought, my phone beeped. I smiled when I saw it was a message from Eric and presumed he was sending me over his address. But instead, he said,
"There are VIP tickets to collect for you. I can't wait to see you backstage after the show. Smiley face, X."
I couldn't believe my eyes. Eric had got us 3 VIP tickets. It was a sold-out show, so it was the coolest thing ever. As soon as I showed the message to my friends, Anna squealed excitedly. But I couldn't help but notice that Kurt didn't look all that thrilled. We got ready and arrived at the show super early. I went to the booth to pick the tickets up. I looked at the tickets excitedly, but what's this? There was nothing on them about being VIP tickets. There must have been a mistake, right? So I asked the lady behind the desk about it. She frowned at me and assured me there was no mistake. Annoyed, I walked off and called Eric, but unsurprisingly, he didn't answer. No doubt he was in rehearsals or something. I was really disappointed because I just wanted to be by his side, to encourage and cheer him on the first time he performed. But now I couldn't. Plus, I was a little nervous his stage fright would return. I explained the mix-up to the others, and Anna was cool about it, and Kurt just rolled his eyes and muttered out,
"Figures."
I didn't bother asking him what he meant by this. I was already bummed out enough. The show was great, and Eric's performance, well, it was so amazing. He'd come on so much since I'd last heard him sing, and I was so proud of him. As soon as the show ended, I rang Eric again, and this time he picked up. I told him about the tickets, and he seemed confused. He confirmed to me that he asked the manager for 3 VIP tickets for us. Then Eric continued.
"Now I'm joining an after-party. I'll send you the address. Let's meet there."
I replied, "Sure, I'll be there. I miss you." I told Anna and Kurt about the party, but they both said they were tired, so made their way back to the hotel. It's okay, as I grabbed a taxi and went to the party by myself. As soon as I entered, I was overwhelmed by the bustle of the party. I'd only been there a few minutes, and I saw a super famous actor walk past me. This was so cool. I grabbed a glass of wine, stood in the corner of the room, and looked at Eric. He stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by a lot of people toasting glasses. Suddenly, I felt like an outsider. Now Eric was a rising star, and I was still an unknown child. After a while, the crowd thinned out, and then a smiling Eric walked over to me. Oh my God, my heart was beating so fast. Finally, I could meet him. I happily waved at him. But then suddenly, Will strode over and whispered something in his ear before he pulled him away. What? Why did he do that? I didn't even have time to say anything to Eric. An anxious restlessness swirled in my heart, so I secretly followed the two of them. Will pulled Eric over to the end of the hallway and said harshly,
"How dare you bring that girl here? If the press finds out, you can kiss goodbye to your career."
Eric replied,
"She's my girlfriend."
Will interrupted immediately.
"You have to keep this a secret. If your fans know that you have a girlfriend already and that she's some nobody, they will definitely turn their back on you."
After a moment of silence, Eric spoke up.
"Is it you who changed the VIP tickets to regular ones?"
He replied.
"Yeah, that was me. It's for the best. Trust me, you don't want all your efforts down the drain, do you?"
Eric was silent and said nothing. Then Will continued.
"You see, Haley saw your success, so she wanted to approach you. Think about it."
What? What did he just say? I was shocked and angry to hear this. I waited for Eric to defend me, but to my confusion, he didn't say a thing. Is this what Eric thought of me? That I was only using him to ride on his fame? I immediately stepped out and appeared in front of them. They both looked totally shocked, but I looked right at Will with wild eyes and said, "You don't need to worry. I'm out of here right now." Then I turned to Eric. "I honestly believed you had more faith in me. I guess now I know where I stand. We're over. I hope fame's everything you expect it to be." I stormed out of there, somehow managing not to burst into tears until I reached the street. My heart hurt so much when I realized a harsh fact. Popularity was the invisible wall that separated me and Eric. Then suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. I turned back and saw Eric chasing after me, but I carried on walking. He caught up with me and pulled on my hand.
"Haley, you misunderstood everything. Let me explain."
I stopped walking and said, "I think I've heard enough. Don't worry, I won't affect your career." Eric quickly interrupted me.
"No, don't say that. I'm so sorry. Haley, I promise I won't let Will interfere with our relationship anymore."
He hugged me tightly, and I felt my heart melt. It felt so familiar being in his arms. I missed him so much and wanted to believe him. My tears kept rolling down my cheeks, but not because of anger. It was tears of love. We stood like that for a long time. Then Eric said,
"Let me take you to a place."
Then he drove me to the Griffith Observatory. And whoa, it was so beautiful. We sat there and watched the stars twinkling. This night had been a roller coaster, but right now, there was nowhere else I'd rather be. So I looked at him and said, if only this moment could last forever. Eric smiled at me, then asked,
"So, how long are you gonna stay here?"
I looked at him sadly and replied, "I have to go back tomorrow." Eric pleaded with me.
"Can you stay for another week? Next week I'm free. I'll show you the LA hotspots. Stay with me. Please?"
Swing Club could cope without me for a week, right? And it would be amazing to spend some quality time with Eric. So I agreed to stay for another week. Anna and Kurt had flights booked for the next day, so they went back. I'm glad I chose to stay, as the next week with Eric by my side was amazing. We went to so many cool places, such as the Getty Center and the Farmers Market. I was so happy to always be with him. But there was one thing that annoyed me. Eric had to wear this wig, oversized hat, and big shades to disguise himself everywhere. But anyway, I knew that was best for him, for his career, and for me. The week whizzed by, and soon my last full day in LA arrived. And although I missed my friends in Swing Club, I felt sad about leaving Eric. Eric was performing at this music festival that day, so he gave me a ticket, and grinning said,
"Here, now I know it's definitely VIP."
This was so sweet of him, so I smiled and thanked him. The festival was huge. I'd never seen so many people before in my life. And then there was the VIP area. Oh my god, I spotted an A-list rapper praying for his performance, and a famous boy band practicing their dance routine. Eric's performance was, as always, outstanding. Afterward, I rushed into the VIP area and into the big tent. Whoa, it was full of so many famous people. I tried finding Eric, then I spotted him in the corner. He was talking to a girl. I walked over to him, and I couldn't believe my eyes. With him was Clara. She's this super famous singer who's been dubbed the new Taylor Swift. I really admired her. She's only 2 years older than me, but she's achieved so much. On seeing me, Eric introduced me to Clara. It turns out she's with the same record company as him, and they were preparing to release a product together. I happily said hi to Clara and eagerly asked her to take a photo with me. I hurriedly took my phone from my bag and was about to hold it up to take a photo, but Clara immediately pushed my hand away and took a step back, then said, no, I'm not free. This surprised me, so I muttered, "Oh, okay." Then she sweetly smiled at Eric as she rubbed his shoulder and said, "Bye, Eric. I'll catch you later." Then completely blanking me, she sashayed away. What just happened? I stood there open-mouthed and feeling confused. Honestly, what is being a famous artist? Was it necessary to deliberately act arrogant to prove herself a star like that?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and at 17, I was the new girl in a super prestigious school. This sudden move wasn't down to anything bad. It's not like I hated my old school or anything, but just like a winning lottery ticket that my father spent his amazing career to get. You see, my dad was a firefighter, and last summer there was a fire that completely burned down this mansion. My dad knew there was someone still in there, so he ignored all his teammates' warnings, then went into the burning building to rescue them alone. He found a girl around my age trapped in her room and rushed in to rescue her. But as he hugged the girl and ran out of the fire, a burning wooden beam fell on his leg. That was when my hero dad used his incredible strength he had left to get rid of it and carried the girl out of the building. Once he went out and checked if the girl was safe, he collapsed in his comrade's arms. He'd saved her life, but he was left with a pretty bad injury on his leg, which meant he couldn't do his job anymore. Being a fireman was all his life. He was so devastated that I couldn't even recognize him, until an unexpected fortune came to our family. The owner of the mansion, Mr. Adams, came to our front door one day. He was so grateful to my dad for saving his daughter's life that he offered him anything he wanted. Mr. Adams is a super wealthy businessman, but my dad didn't want his money. But there was one thing he agreed on. There's this private school. Well, it's not just any private school. It's where kids of politicians, celebrities, and big business tycoons go. Mr. Adams organized for me to go there too. OMG, it was so crazy. I'd be in the same class as the kids of A-list celebrities. I was so worried if I could fit in that new environment. But Mr. Adams said that his daughter Ashley went there too, and she would help me a lot. And I could see how happy my dad was after a long, devastating time. So, yes. My first day of school was so different than I imagined. Ashley had to delay going back to school for a month because she still hadn't recovered all her skin damage yet. So I ended up going alone. So, wow, this school was amazing. Seriously, take luxury and times it by about 100. Even the lockers were super expensive looking. I was afraid that if I scratched it, there was no way my parents would be able to afford the repairs. Not only were the facilities out of this world, but the students there were something else too. They looked so classy in stylish and expensive clothes. Even though the school had a uniform, it seemed like the only one wearing it was, well, it was me. Ugh, as bad as the uniform was, the thought of showing up in my cheap casual clothes was far worse. When I entered the classroom, everyone stared at me and looked me up and down. Then this glamorous girl walked over to me and said, "So, who are your parents, newbie?" I froze. I didn't expect this to be her first question, but it said a lot. Obviously, status here was important, so I knew that telling them my father was just a firefighter who would quit his job due to an injury, and I was here as a reward for his sacrifice, wouldn't cut it. I blurted out, "Mr. Adams." "Now where can I sit?" All of them were surprised. Another girl showed me an empty space at the front table. Looking at their attitude, I guessed Mr. Adams had been a very famous man in their world. The other girls stayed out of my way after that, but I could feel this one girl's glaring eyes on me. I knew I wasn't done with her. The next day, when I was by my locker, she came over with her group of friends and said, "Newbie, I know you're lying. Mr. Adams only has one daughter, Ashley, and she's my friend." Oh, no. This wasn't good. I tried to remain calm and replied, "I'm more than his daughter. He owes me and my family." They all looked surprised as I walked off, but hey, I didn't lie. He really does owe my family. If they happen to think this is down to debt or power, well, then that's not my fault, is it? That was not all. This school had some weird rules. It doesn't have regular high school clubs like music, chess, or cheerleading. Nope, here it's all down to status. There's a club for the celebrity kids, a club for the politicians' kids, and so on. I found this strange. Could no one here be themselves without clinging onto their parents' fame? Anyway, 1 week into school, and I was told that I had to attend my club meeting after school. Oh, so they themselves put me in a child of something family group. I didn't want to be classified as a dissident by themselves too, so I reluctantly go to the hall to attend. I sat at the back of the room. It seemed to be a club for business tycoons' kids. Geez, it was so boring. So boring, in fact, that I was pretty sure the kid sitting next to me was sleeping. A boy whose dad owns one of the mega big companies droned on about how his father donated millions to the school. Worse still, everyone clapped and cheered him as if he'd saved the world or something. After half an hour of this fakeness, I'd had enough. So, glided past the sleeping guy so I could escape. But being the clumsy girl I am, I accidentally knocked his earphone jack slip out. Cue the loudest rumbling of music. Oops. The boy sat up and calmly turned off his music. I was still standing there with everyone looking at me when Mauve said, "Sarah, isn't it? Are you going somewhere? At least you should tell us what your family has done for this school. Or you think you can just enjoy the perks of this club?" Confused, I blurted out, "It's not like I need all this drama anyway." "Oh, is that so?" Mauve glared at me. I was about to gather up my stuff and hurry out of there when the guy beside me stood up and said, "She's right. No one cares about your dumb perks. This club is so boring it actually sent me to sleep." The room fell silent. This boy pulled me out of there. Wow, who was this boy to say such a thing? I have to admit, I was kinda impressed, but also shocked. Out in the foyer, he turned to me and said, "I'm Noah. It's nice to meet an interesting girl like you." OMG, this Noah boy was so handsome. Before I could even think up a reply, he turned around and walked off. And wait, had he just said that I was interesting? Anyway, I didn't need any friends here. They all seemed so fake. All I needed to do was put my all into my studies and make the most of the education on offer here. The best class for me by far was art, and more specifically, plaster making. I loved creating plaster figures. I just got so absorbed into the art of it. Once I was working on my sculpture when this girl called Claire came up to me and whispered, "Are you on your period? Come with me to my locker if you need clothes to change into." I looked down at my skirt, and yep, she was right. Of course, I didn't have a backup outfit. Seeing me flustered, she suddenly took her Chanel tweed jacket off and tied it around my waist. Oh my God, what if I got it dirty? My panic continued when I saw inside of her locker. Wow, all of the items in there must have cost at least 4 digits. She grabbed this pretty dress, then pushed me toward the toilets. I changed into the dress. I'd never worn anything so expensive before. I stepped out of the cubicle, and she smiled and said, "You look amazing. I knew this color would complement your skin tone." Turns out that not only did she know loads about fashion, but she was also the sweetest girl. After that, I grew closer to Claire, but there was one thing I didn't understand. Why didn't an amazing girl like Claire have any other friends? One time during lunch, I asked her this, and she replied, "My mom's a famous actress, but she was afraid having me would affect her career, so she had me in secret. So here, I'm a nobody. But it's okay, because now I have you, and my amazing clothes, of course." Claire had shared her secret with me, so it seemed only fair that I shared mine. So I told her all about my dad and why I was really at this school. She hugged me and told me my dad was a true hero and I deserved my place at the school, far more than any of the other kids. It felt good having Claire to confide in, and was proof to me that not all the kids at this school were brats. Then one day, I walked into the class to see this pretty girl sitting at my table. Loads of kids surrounded her like she was royalty or something. She caught my eye and rushed over and hugged me and said, "I'll be forever grateful for what your father did for me. I'm so happy to have you as a sister, Sarah." It turns out that she was Ashley, the daughter of Mr. Adams. She invited me to have lunch with her, and I didn't want to be rude. I mean, it was Ashley's first day back and all. I spotted Claire alone on our usual table, and she looked sad when she saw where I was. I was going to ask Ashley if she could join us, but then I noticed that Claire had already left the cafeteria. I felt so out of place, as all they talked about was business news and their previous vacations to luxury hotels and private islands. Then suddenly this handsome boy came over and sat down next to Ashley. Wait, I recognized him. It was that Noah kid. Then he looked at Ashley and said, "Hey, long time no see." "Oh, he speaks," another girl said. I was beginning to think you only want to know us when Ashley's around. Noah replied, I have stuff I need to ask this girl. Another girl joked, stuff involving a fiancé and his bride-to-be, is it? They all laughed, and I saw Ashley turn bright red. Then she turned to me and said, Sarah, this is Noah, my boyfriend. And Noah, this is Sarah, the girl my father has told you about. What? He is her boyfriend? I looked in his direction, and our eyes met.
Hey, my name's Kelly, and I'm so excited to start high school. Yes, I get it. Most kids my age feel the same way, but for them, it's all about proms, later curfews, getting their own car, and having a cute boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay, so those things sound great too, but the thing I'm most excited about is joining a cool club, a music one to be exact. You see, since I was little, I had this dream of being part of an awesome club like in Glee. Finally, school started. I was so eager to dive into this new environment, but it took me a few days till I could get a clue of where the music club office was or how to apply for it. No one seemed to know, to be honest, or maybe it's because I've only been asking freshmen who were just as lost as me. Anyway, after a lot of pacing the hallways, I found a room that said music club on the door. Well, it actually said MSIC Club, as the U was missing, but it had to be it, right? I couldn't contain my excitement. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Hello, everyone. What was this? I took one quick scan around the room, as there's not much to look at anyway. There was a rusty guitar in the corner, a dusty drum set, and some rackety old chairs. 3 girls were sitting separately. One girl greeted me shyly, so I went and sat next to her. She said, Hi, I'm Daisy. I play guitar and sometimes the bass. I learn ballads, you know. Then this one girl who was painting her nails interrupted her. Ballads are the worst. She rolled her eyes. But luckily for you guys, I sing a mean pop tune. Daisy turned to me and whispered, That's Mia, and I'm not really sure if she can really sing though. The only other girl in the room had her headphones in and was dancing weirdly. Daisy told me she was called Jill, and she could kind of play the drums. I looked around the room of misfits once again, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really disappointed. This wasn't what I imagined. I told myself it was okay, and that more kids might join up later on in the term. I mean, it wasn't the easiest club to find, so it might take some time. That's all. Besides, this was my chance to claim leadership here. So, without wasting any time, I gathered them all up for a little discussion. Then I started with introducing myself. Hey guys, I'm Kelly. I started play organ since 8. I've been trying to learn to compose songs too. There was not much reaction except for Daisy's shy claps. I then continued, So, we should have a team leader, right guys? Let's cast our votes. Everyone will have a minute to talk about why they should be the leader. Daisy nodded her head, Mia rolled her eyes and mouthed, Whatever. And Jill, well, she still had her headphones on, so I took the lead. Okay, so I'll start then. I think as the president of this club, I will... Mia cut my words. Fine, you're it, whatever. Who else votes for Kelsey? Hands up. I started saying, my name is Kel. Mia raised her hand and then shook it out so her nails could dry. Jill raised her hand even though I don't think she actually knew what she was voting for. And Daisy raised hers while shyly adding, I think you'll be a great leader, Kelly. I'm too shy anyway, so you'll have my full support. Well, okay, that was easy, so I'm a club president now. That will look so good on my portfolio. Now, I will bring back this club from oblivion. We will revive it. I'll have my own high school musical. I was actually excited. As soon as I got home, I went through my song list and picked out some good ones. Then I texted the girls to bring their instruments in the following day. But then at practice, all my dreams came crashing down. Daisy was right. Mia's singing voice was terrible. But she couldn't play an instrument, so I had to let her take center stage, which she loved, as she clearly liked the spotlight. But then Jill folded her arms and refused to play. She can't stand there. She's covering me entirely. The drum is the soul of the song. Duh, I should be center. This annoyed Mia and they started bickering. I left them to it and went over to Daisy. Please tell me you can sing, can you? We gotta do something. Mia couldn't be the only vocalist. We'll be doomed. Daisy looked stunned. She shook her head continuously. No, I can't do that. It's already such a big challenge for me to play in public. I can't sing. I tried convincing her that she could sing backing vocals with me, and she'd be fine. In the end, she agreed, but only if she could wear a mask on stage. What? Fine, I shouted. Fine. Guys, Daisy, it's okay. You can put a mask on while performing until whenever you feel comfortable. And you two, no need to fight. I'm sure the stage is big enough for you both to be in the spotlight. This is just a practice session. No one is here to see you. Just put up with it for a bit. Then when we're on stage, we'll figure it out. They all mellowed down a bit, thankfully. Geez, talk about draining. So, over the next few weeks, we got to work, and OMG, what a clash of personalities. I felt like I was the glue holding us all together, and it was so exhausting. Mia wanted to practice in the morning, but Jill wanted to meet in the afternoon, so I suggested doing a morning one day and an afternoon the next practice day. Then there was a song choice. Mia and Daisy were keen on a Taylor Swift song, but Jill tried to rock it up and made it sound awful. I compromised by letting her have a drum solo in the middle of it. They were hard work, but the strange thing is, I was actually beginning to like them all. Mia gave us all style tips and even let me borrow her lip gloss. Jill always recommended us some really interesting Netflix series to watch. Daisy made us homemade snacks to munch on during practice while I helped them out with their homework. Besides all the bickering, there were definitely friendships blossoming there. The problem is our band sucked. We'd only performed twice during break time at the school basketball game, but no one even noticed us, not while the dance team was performing. They were so in sync, and this one kid could do the splits. I mean, how could we compete with that? Then finally, the prom came. This was our big shot. We prepared a lot and practiced hard for it. We even went picking out prom dresses together, thinking about how glorious we would all look on stage performing in these gorgeous dresses. Before our performance was the dance team's, so we couldn't set up our instruments beforehand since they said they would be in their way. So as soon as they finished, we had to rush on stage with our instruments. Trust me, this is not as easy as it sounds, especially when all of us, well, apart from Jill, were in long puffy dresses. Talking about Jill, she chose to wear this cape instead, and it kept on getting tangled up and messing her rhythm. Daisy was distracted by the lights, so she messed up all the notes, and me, while I was playing, suddenly my keyboard stand collapsed. I guess due to being in a rush, it wasn't properly set up earlier. I had to improvise and immediately sat down to continue to play, and then Mia was too into it and sang off-key while dancing, which made her out of breath. It was a literal disaster. Seriously, it was so bad the baffled crowd gave a mixture of chuckles and amazed gasps. This is not how I envisioned it to go. Afterward, we walked in silence back to the music room to drop off our instruments. Then Jill said, "I told you the prom dresses were a bad idea. Not only did you sound awful, but you look stupid too." Mia was fuming as she replied, "Says the girl in the stupid cape. Since when has the Count Dracula look ever been good?" Jill said, "At least I have talent. You're tone deaf." "I am not. It's not my fault I have terrible backing singers." "Yeah, right, Mia. Was that what you call singing? All you did was dance and scream. This ain't a nightclub." Mia fought back. "My fault? What did I do? It's all because all you played so awful, so I had to try my best to stir up the crowd. And you," she turned to me, "were you on stage to chill? Who on earth sits while performing?" "Me? Now you're blaming me? You were the one who set up the keyboard stand for me. It's because you didn't do it properly. Lucky for you, my keyboard is still okay." "Never mind, guys. Let's not. Hey, you guys should have taken care of your own instruments. Don't blame me. Even if I sang off key, it was because you guys played terribly." "Who chose this song? It was too hard for us." Okay, let's stop blaming each other and focus on figuring out how to improve ourselves, or else I doubt that the school will let us perform in any event ever again. Again? Isn't this enough to call it a day? This stupid club shouldn't even exist. I'm out of here. I quit. Me too. What a waste of time. Bye, losers. Ditto. Sorry, Kelly, but I can't do this anymore. I could only stand there and shout as they walked through the door. "Guys, are you kidding me right now? Guys! Okay then, just leave. To hell with this club." My Glee Club dreams were over. Yet I just stayed there wondering what I was meant to do now. This was the worst day ever. But it was okay. I joined another club. Maybe the dance club. I mean, I couldn't dance all that well, but I could learn, couldn't I? The Monday after, we all went to the club room to grab our stuff. The four of us didn't say a word to each other. It was super frosty. Then out of nowhere, this guy stepped in. Well, not just any guy. Cole Henderson, the hottest boy in freshman year. At first, I thought he was lost, but then he said,
Hey guys, is this the room for music club?
Hey, it's Sarah here. So my school and college days had come to an end. Now I was stepping out into the big wide world and trying to get my first job as a plaster statue maker. Today was an exciting but nerve-wracking day for me, as I had a meeting with a famous fashion company. Apparently, they were impressed with my portfolio and thought I was perfect for the job, so I was eager to find out what it involved and how a plaster modeler like me would fit in. First off, wow, the building was massive. The foyer was full of modern furniture and abstract artwork. I sat on the couch and waited, noticing how everyone looked so stylish with their trendy outfits and funky hairstyles. I felt a bit out of place in the dress I'd found in the sale, but I tried telling myself that I was here for my talent and not for wearing expensive outfits. After a few minutes, a nice lady came and said that the director was ready to see me in the meeting room. As I followed her there, I felt my heart beating like crazy. I couldn't believe that I had the opportunity to work with such a big company. For a girl who just graduated, this was a really big deal. But as soon as I entered the room, my mood changed. You will not believe who was sitting in the meeting room. It was Noah and Claire, my old classmates. So, what, Noah was the director now? And he was the one who wanted to hire me? Was this maybe another sick joke or something? I thought my school dramas were behind me, but now I was face to face with two people who'd stabbed me in the back. Noah stood up and said, Hi, Sarah. It's good to see you again. Is this a joke? Are you both trying to make fun of me again? For your information, I'm not that girl anymore, so don't even think about it, I interrupted him with anger. Noah looked confused. This isn't a joke, Sarah. It was never in school either. You're here because we know how talented you are. They were all liars. I trusted them once, but never again. I turned my back on them and was about to walk out the door when Claire stood up and said, I think she meant me. She's still mad at me because I used her story for my collection without asking her. Oh, so Claire remembered how she used my story, as if it was a joke just to raise the value of her collection. Claire continued, Sarah, please listen. I'm sorry I took your pictures for my project without asking you first. I was so focused on the project that I didn't notice the feelings of the people around me. I turned around and replied, Well, making fun of others isn't really art, don't you think? She shook her head and said, No, that wasn't my intention at all. Your story was inspiring, and I just wanted everybody to know about it. But I get it now. It was wrong of me. Can you please forgive me? This made me so mad. So I replied, Do you think a simple sorry will make up for it? You humiliated me. Claire came towards me, took my hand, and said, I know. Trust me, I've regretted it for years. I still regret it now. I looked right into her eyes and said, You really did hurt me that day. You know that? Claire replied, I know. Please give me a chance to make it up. Okay, so maybe she was sorry. I mean, she looked like she meant it. Besides, this wasn't school anymore. I at least needed to hear what she had to say. So I smiled at her and said, Okay. She looked so relieved, then she hugged me. I noticed Noah smiling too, so I said, Don't think that I forgot about that Wonder Woman costume. At first he looked confused, then said, Wait, Sarah, that wasn't me. I didn't give you the costume. Wait, what? You didn't? Noah nodded and continued, Of course I didn't. Why would I ever do that to you? We are on the same boat. Did you forget? Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. All this time and it wasn't him? I misunderstood him and the feeling of being betrayed had haunted me for years, but it was all Ashley. So now that's cleared up, can we talk about the project? He asked. Blushing, I nodded. They started telling me about the project, and wow, it sounded amazing. I was totally blown away. Forget the usual skinny models in every fashion show, as they wanted me to create plaster statues that would show off the charm of the human body. Each statue would have a unique shape. Silk was the theme material for Claire's collection. She would work with me to create costumes that would suit each plaster statue. They offered me the job, and I said yes! This was really a big challenge for me, but I couldn't wait to make it happen. Claire and I threw ourselves into the project, and it wasn't long before we bonded over lunchtime takeouts and after-work coffees. I must admit, it was good having her around. I guess I missed her more than I realized. To my surprise, Noah was also pretty great. This may have been his family's company, but turns out he was a good boss. Whenever Claire and I couldn't agree on something, Noah would jump in and give us an even better option. He always had these crazy ideas that Claire and I would never have thought of. This one time, the three of us ended up working later than expected, so I volunteered to go and grab some food from the place around the corner. As I was walking, I heard Noah call my name. Turns out he wanted to keep me company. Then, when he saw me shivering, he took off his jacket and put it around my shoulders. My heart felt like it skipped a beat, and I could smell his warmth around me. I'd forgotten what a sweet guy he could be. Uh-oh. Was I crushing on him again? But then a few days later, something happened. The three of us were having lunch when suddenly Noah's phone, which was lying on the table, rang. I could see on the screen that it was Ashley. Noah picked up the phone. "Oh, hey, Ashley. Yes, okay, I'll be there in a minute." And then he hung up and said, "Sorry, ladies, I have to go now. See you tomorrow. Bye." And then rushed out of there. I immediately turned to Claire and asked, "Was that the Ashley who just called?" Claire nodded. "Yes, ma'am, the one and only. It's such a shame that a great guy like Noah has to marry an awful person like Ashley." Wait, what? Did Claire just say marry? I tried to keep a calm voice when I asked her. "They're getting married?" "When?" Claire replied. "I think in the fall or something. I'm not really sure. Noah doesn't talk much about it. He's always quiet when it comes to this topic." Oh, great. I'd fallen for him all over again, only to lose him to Ashley. Again. I felt so disappointed. But at least now I knew what I had to do. From now on, I'd keep my feelings hidden and concentrate on my work. No way was I getting on Ashley's bad side again. After a lot of hard work and effort, we completed the project on time. Not only that, but the exhibition was a major success. Claire's stunning outfits and my awesome sculptures worked so well together. Turns out we made a great team. Claire's costumes sold out, and she received loads of orders. As for me, my statues were auctioned off with sales far greater than expected. To congratulate us, Noah threw a party for our team at this swanky bar in town. It felt so good to let my hair down for once, as I'd been working so hard of late. We had a really great time. Everybody was gathering on a table and was teasing each other, making jokes, and just having fun. I probably should have slowed down on the cocktails, as I soon ended up pretty drunk. After a while, Noah sat down next to me and asked me, "So, apart from being a talented sculptor, do you have any other hobbies?" I replied, "Of course I do. Duh. I don't know," I laughed. He continued asking, "What about food? Any favorite dish? And what about pets? Do you like pets?" I laughed and replied, "Oh, wow. Is this an interview or something? What's with all these personal questions?" Noah smiled and answered, "I want to get to know more about you, as I find myself curious about you." I felt my face turn bright red. What did he mean by that? Did he maybe also have feelings for me? But then I quickly kicked all these ridiculous thoughts out of my head. He was engaged to Ashley, so he was just being nice. Noah gazed at me oddly, which confused me. I didn't know what to do or say, so I stood up and said quickly, I need to go to the restroom," but assumed I had too many drinks because I almost tripped. Noah held my hand and insisted on helping me. His hand felt so warm. I knew I should pull my hand away, but I just couldn't. To be honest, I just wanted to fall into his arms. Maybe it was the alcohol talking. The next morning, I woke up. What the? This wasn't my room. I was in this luxurious, very modern room. The kind you see in 5-star luxury hotels. Oh my God! Where was I? I looked down at my body and, phew, still had my clothes on. So nothing happened, right? I took a deep breath to calm myself down, and then quickly grabbed my purse, which was on a chair, and sneaked out of the room. Geez, this apartment was huge. Where was the damn door? When I was still struggling to find a way out, I bumped into Noah, who just stepped out of the bathroom. Why are you here?" I mumbled out. But then I looked around and spotted a big picture of him and his family. Oh, great. I'd spent the night at his place. Hi everyone, it's Sarah here. So I had the ultimate blast from the past when I went to a meeting and ended up coming face to face with my old classmates, Noah and Claire. After years, we eventually had the chance to clear up misunderstandings. I was too hasty in concluding that they were all monsters who caused my past suffering. We let the past stay in the past and did a great job together. After that, I found my relationships blossoming between them both. But while Claire's was a growing friendship, with Noah there was some definite chemistry there. But he was engaged to Ashley, so I tried to keep my feelings hidden. At least that was until the night of the party when I drank way too much. So here I was, in what must have been Noah's apartment. I was staring at him standing there in front of the bathroom. Before I could mumble out any sort of response, an angry girl burst in. Oh no, it was Ashley. She wasn't pleased that Noah was at home with a seemed-to-be drunk girl. He tried explaining to her that it wasn't what it looked like. That's when she took some photos from her purse and threw them on the floor. They were pictures of me and Noah from last night. There were some of us chatting at the table, one where we were laughing, and one of him helping me out of the bar and into his car. Oh my God, why did she have these pictures? Noah said he needed to change clothes first, then we could all talk it out. He led Ashley out of the room, but a few seconds later she stormed back in and yelled at me. "It's you again, Sarah. I know you seduced my fiancé." "It's not like that," I muttered out. "I was drunk, and he was just being kind. There is nothing between us." "These say otherwise." She pointed to the pictures. "You think that because your dad saved my life, that you're entitled to not only the same education as me, but my fiancé too? Well, you're not. You're nothing." She lunged at me and reached out to grab my hair. Luckily, Noah, who was pulling his t-shirt over his head, rushed into the room. He grabbed Ashley and pulled her away from me. "When I come over later, she better be gone," she screamed at him, before she stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. I wanted to tell Noah how sorry I was, but I couldn't find the words. He took my hand and pulled me out of his apartment. We got into his car, and he drove me home in silence. When he pulled up outside of my place, he finally spoke. "Sarah, I'm really sorry about all this. Last night's a bit of a blur for me, but I can tell you this. Everything I did is my true feelings, because I love you. There's no one else like you. You're special, and I've always loved you, since high school. You feel the same way, right?" Oh my God! Noah had feelings for me too! So my mind wasn't messing with me. I knew it. For a minute, I was so happy to hear that. But then reality hit me. He was engaged to Ashley. I knew we couldn't be together, so I reluctantly said, "Noah, you're engaged to Ashley. You belong to somebody else. So we can't be together." Noah cut me off. I know. We're only engaged because it was our family's decision for business stuff. I don't love her, not like how I love you. Can you please wait for me? I will handle this." I was so confused. I was stuck in a love triangle that I never intended to be in. To be honest, I also had feelings for Noah, but I knew what kind of person Ashley was. If Noah left her for me, she would never stop trying to ruin my life. Sorry, Noah. I know what she's like. I still have the emotional scars from the last time she thought I was trying to steal you from her. I don't want to get involved in this drama with you and her. So please, let us just be friends. Noah was silent at first, but then he gave a solemn nod and said, "Okay, if that's what you wish." I got out of his car and watched him drive away. I'd made the best decision, right? I couldn't be with a guy who was engaged to someone else. After that, I buried myself in work. Only having Noah as my boss was not so easy, especially when Ashley started visiting him almost every day at work. Ugh! If watching her be all over Noah wasn't bad enough, I also had to endure her childish games. One time, she had 2 cups of coffee in her hand and accidentally spilled both of them on me and my desk. The coffee was so damn hot. Luckily, I didn't get burned. She feigned concerned, but I wasn't fooled. I knew that she'd done it on purpose. Then another time, when I went to the restroom, I caught her writing bad comments about me on the mirror with lipstick. I mean, seriously? I asked her why she was doing this, and she smirked and said, "You know why." Buckle up, as this is just the beginning." Then she laughed and went out of the restroom. Oh my God! How crazy she was! Turns out she meant what she said. As a week later, I had a meeting with an important business partner. I was super nervous, so I went to my laptop to give my presentation one last scan through, and to my horror, the document had vanished. This made no sense, as it had been there last night before I went to bed. I'd triple-checked it. Somebody must have hacked my laptop. That's when I saw Ashley standing by the door with a scornful smile on her face. I instantly knew this was down to her. I whispered to Noah and Claire that I couldn't find the presentation on my laptop. They looked shocked, but Noah immediately explained to the partner that my laptop had a virus, so all the data had been deleted. So we needed to postpone the meeting. The partner looked furious and shouted at Noah, "Are you kidding me? A virus? I expected your company to be more professional, but clearly I was wrong. I hope you understand the importance of this exhibition." And then he left the meeting room. Oh my God, this was so embarrassing. It was my entire fault. I let the team down. And now we had to face consequences because of me. Could things even get worse? After that, Noah asked Claire to leave the room. Then he turned to me and said, "I know it's not your fault. Someone must have hacked your laptop. Don't worry, I will get to the bottom of this." It felt good knowing that he didn't blame me. He was such a sweet guy, which was exactly why I loved him. And worse still, I'd let him go so that Ashley wouldn't make my life a misery. But here she was, making my life one. Enough was enough. Ashley was a horrible person, and she didn't deserve a sweet guy like Noah. So before I stopped to think, I blurted out, "Noah, I need to tell you something. I love you too, and I think we should give ourselves a chance." Noah looked at me with surprised eyes, but after an agonizing wait of silence, he said, "Sarah, I'm really sorry. We can't. Ashley is the best choice for me. I hope you understand." His words hurt like crazy. How could he confess his love for me just a few days ago, and now tell me he wanted her, not me? Did he decide that his career was more important than love? But then, what did I expect? He was engaged. I felt like such a fool, so I nodded and said, "I understand." Then I rushed out of there. I needed to take my mind off everything, and luckily for me, a new project with Claire popped up, which involved Claire designing national costumes and me creating statues with poses to match. Plus, I got to design wheeled platforms so that the statues could move. This would be a big shot. I meant this idea was unique in the sculpture industry. One day I was waiting outside of the building for Claire to go get her car as we were going for dinner, when I heard someone call my name. I turned around, and to my surprise, I saw that it was Ben. "Sarah, it's so good to see you." He smiled. I stared at him in shock. "Wow, it's been so long. When did you come back? Why didn't you text me?" He smiled and said, "Well, I always knew I'd come back. Sarah, At that moment, Claire arrived. She smiled and looked out the car door to greet Ben. I regretted goodbye to him. So Ben and I switched numbers and arranged to meet up soon. It was great to have my best friend back here by my side. Claire grabbed my arm and said, "Ooh, who's he? He's very handsome." I laughed at her. "He's my friend Ben. So you like him, huh?" "Ah, his name is Ben. I think I have found the prince of my life. You have to help me, Sarah." I smiled and gave her an okay signal. She became really excited and couldn't stop asking about him during the meal. I thought they would become a cute couple. That weekend, I arranged to meet Ben at a restaurant. Ben was still very attentive and enthusiastic as before. It was so good to catch up with him, and we talked about our dream to one day open our own exhibition together. Then he said, "Do you remember our promise?" Of course I remembered it. We once promised to open an exhibition together. Then Ben continued, "My work in San Francisco had problems. Things didn't go well as I expected, but I've learned a lot. Now I'm confident enough to come back to find you and make our dream come true, but I need your help." I was so surprised by his suggestion. At the time, I was so busy with work that I wasn't sure how I'd manage both. But looking at Ben's face, I knew I couldn't turn him down. So after thinking for a while, I smiled at him and said, "Yes, of course. Let's make our dreams come true now." Okay, so combining both my job and working on this project with Ben was going far better than expected. I didn't tell anyone at work about my sideline project, though. I mean, they didn't affect each other or anything, but I still didn't think it would go down well with my colleagues. Then one evening, when I was around at Ben's working on the project, he turned to me and asked, "Do you remember my question? I'm still waiting for your answer." I could tell from the way he was looking at me that he meant the one after graduation when he'd asked to be my girlfriend. Wow, did this mean he still liked me, even after all this time? Ben is literally a lovebird, but what could I do? I myself am a lovebird too, spending my love to Noah all these years, even when he always had Ashley with him. I don't like Ben in that way, but I also don't want to lose him as a friend. It was too hard for me to say something now. Ben could see me feeling uncomfortable. He laughed and said, "It's okay, Sarah. Take your time. I can wait." Then we continued to discuss the project. Actually, I felt very guilty for not clearly rejecting him and giving him false hope, but I didn't want to hurt him. He was my best friend, so we'd be okay, right? Hey, it's Sarah again. So things between Noah and I became complicated after I blurted out to him that I wanted to be with him and he completely shut me down. This wasn't what he'd said a few days before this, so now I was so confused. I tried to put all my focus into work, but then I reconnected with Ben and turns out he still loved me. After I left Ben's house, I thought things over. Back at graduation, I couldn't properly determine what my feelings were for him. Now I realized that my heart didn't belong to him. It belonged to Noah. I knew how sensitive Ben was, and the last thing I wanted was for my rejection to upset him. There was only one thing for it. I'd find him a new girl to focus on. Someone sweet and funny. Yep, I was talking about Claire. She was perfect. I put my plan into action by inviting both Ben and Claire to go bowling. Then I showed up a little late so they'd have one-on-one time to get to know each other. My plan looked like it worked because when I arrived, Claire and Ben were drinking sodas and talking. Only when I joined them, I realized that it was Claire doing most of the chatting while Ben barely said a word but just politely forced his smile without looking in her eyes. He was just awkward meeting someone new, right? Afterward, Claire sent me dozens of messages saying how cute she thought Ben was and how well they got on. I figured that Ben just needed a little more time to get to know Claire. Then he'd see how perfect she was for him. Anyway, back to my Noah problems. Seeing him at work after my failed confession was hard. I tried to be normal around him, but every time I caught a glimpse of him, my heart ached. I tried avoiding him as much as possible, but I just kept bumping into him somehow. I was on my way home from work when my car stalled. I was about to call for help, but as I was on the phone, I noticed Noah's convertible car pulled up alongside me. Then he said, "Get in the car, I'll take you home." I was a bit confused, but I didn't want to be stuck there alone this late and waiting for hours. So I got into his car. At first, there was this super awkward silence. Noah just kept quiet and drove, but then he hesitated. "Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened. I never wanted to make you sad. I understand, Noah. You don't need to explain anything. You're an engaged man, so I was just being dumb." Another silence came between us. In my life, his car became the stuffiest place I'd ever been. He pulled up outside my house, I forced a smile, and mouthed thanks before I got out of his car to walk home. But it only took a few steps before a hand suddenly pulled me back. "Sarah, it's not like that. Actually," Noah was about to say more when suddenly a voice came from behind me. "Sarah, why are you so late? And who is this man?" It was Ben. In all the commotion, I'd completely forgotten we'd made plans for him to come around this evening to discuss the project. I replied, "He's my boss. My car broke down, so he kindly helped me out." Ben stared at Noah and said in an unfriendly voice, "Oh, thanks for taking my friend home. Now you can go." Then he pulled me forward. I just turned around and waved to Noah. Ben's attitude was so strange. He was normally very polite, but why was he rude to Noah? What was wrong with him? He was in a vile mood, and as the night went on, this only seemed to worsen. We had consistently conflicting opinions. I wanted to add creative and alternative ideas to the plaster statues, but Ben rejected all those ideas. I knew he was old-fashioned and was unsure about my creative suggestions, but he wouldn't even hear me out. My ideas don't make plaster art any less valuable. Instead, it makes them stand out, which could attract younger audiences. He sneered, then said, "Your views on plaster art have changed, and so have you." What? Why did he think that? I gave him an example to let him understand what I was doing, that in my company's upcoming project, the statues would be dressed like a real person, and even they would be able to move. Ben panicked and said, "Oh my God, it was an offense. If your statues are dressed in those costumes, how can people see the beauty of sculpture?" The more I tried to explain this to Ben, the angrier he got. Then he yelled at me, "Sarah, that boss and that damn company have changed you." I shouted back, "Why are you so stubborn?" Ben continued, "I don't think I need your help anymore. I'll do the project myself." Then he left. What? I couldn't believe this. I'd been working my butt off trying to juggle work and this project. Besides, he'd asked for my help in the first place. Ugh! I agreed to work with him just because I respect our friendship, and now what he said? Okay, it was fine. I was too tired and I didn't have time to go argue with him. After that, I spent all my time on the company's project with Claire. Meanwhile, I also heard from Claire that Ben's project had problems. It seemed he was having financial difficulties implementing the project. I felt a bit guilty because I promised to contribute money with him to do this project. But now, it was his choice. So, he had to deal with it himself. Fortunately, he now had Claire by his side, so I hoped she could help him through this difficult time. Finally, after months of plenty of sweat and tears, the launch day of the new collection arrived. Due to the success from the previous project, this fashion show was much more crowded. Mostly fashion enthusiasts and local plaster lovers. Then the show started, the lights went out, and I held my breath as my statues moved along the catwalk. The light from the platform combined with the spotlight made them look like they were giving off an aura. It was such a success, and a huge number of orders were placed. Claire and I smiled happily together, so our efforts over the past few months had paid off. At the end of the show, Noah thanked the audience and the press. Then he invited me and Claire onto the stage and introduced us. He excitedly told everyone that the designer of the collection was Claire, and all these statues and the idea of making them move were all my own. Everyone was in awe, looked at me admiringly, and congratulated me. Receiving such compliments, it felt like I was on top of the world. Suddenly, there was a journalist who wanted to ask me some questions, and of course I agreed. I've received information that the idea about your statues are stolen, and I have evidence. Then he showed everyone photos of statues that looked exactly like my blueprints. So, could you please tell us if this is true or not? He asked. What? What was he asking? All of these statues were my own ideas. Everyone started talking. I heard some comments such as, "Oh, it's unbelievable. So much for her ideas being unique. And if that's true, are the costume ideas also stolen?" Then a series of flashes and microphones pointed at me and Claire. I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what to do. Suddenly I felt someone pulling on my hand. It was Noah. When we were out of the room, he said, "My driver will take you home. I have to get back to deal with this." Noah, trust me, they are all my ideas. I'd never steal anyone else's. Sarah, I know that. I will find out who's behind this. The news that I was the idea thief spread like wildfire, and each day, fresh calls came in to cancel their orders. This was awful. Claire and I had worked so hard on that project, and now it all seemed for nothing. Worse still, if this issue didn't get sorted soon, no one would ever want to work with either of us ever again. The company was also suffering. Their reputation had declined along with their finances. That made me feel extremely guilty, even though I was just a victim of this vandalism. I just couldn't figure out how my blueprints were leaked, as only the people in our group knew about them. Could one of them betray us? I scratched my head thinking about this. I was desperate to know if Noah had any news about this, so I went to his office. As I walked to the door, I heard Claire's voice. "Don't press him this hard, please." Then Noah replied, "Ashley knows it was Ben who did this. She's certain Sarah was the one who revealed all the blueprints to him. If something isn't done about this, her family will withdraw their company shares, and I can't let that happen." I couldn't believe what I just heard. How painful it was when being stabbed in the back. It turns out Ben did it. I mentioned my ideas to him before, but I just said a little bit about it. How could he make an exact copy? I immediately texted Ben to ask to meet him at the coffee shop near my company. As soon as Ben arrived, he made a guilty face. Just waiting for him to sit down, I angrily looked at him and said, "Did you really do it?" He looked guilty and admitted that when his project came to a standstill because he needed money, Ashley appeared and said she'd help with one condition. He had to help her ruin my project. As well as the money, he wanted me to realize that my crazy creations, well, as he called them, weren't good for my career. So he agreed to Ashley's demands. "I didn't do it just for my exhibition," Ben continued. "I want you to leave that company, leave Noah, and then we can start over." This wasn't for you to decide. I know you despise the direction I've chosen to take my artwork in, but that doesn't give you the right to do what you did. I trusted you, and you destroyed my career. And what for? For some money? "It wasn't like that, Sarah," he replied. "How did you get my blueprints?" I tried to control my anger and asked. I approached Claire, Ben said, falteringly. He took advantage of Claire's feelings and trust and dragged her into this whole mess. I couldn't control it anymore. I shouted, "You're a coward! Do you know that Claire is still begging for you even though she knows you took advantage of her?" Ben looked quite shocked. He stammered, "Is that true? Why is she?" Then he had a guilty look on his face and said, "Please stop her. I don't want her to throw her career away because of me." I shrugged and said, "But it's fine for you to destroy mine. This is your doing, so go and handle it yourself." Then I immediately left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about what just happened. Turns out Ben wasn't the guy I thought he was, and I never wanted to talk to him ever again. I was even more surprised that Ashley was the one behind this. I felt so low. I had nothing left. I'd lost the man I loved, my promising career, and I'd been betrayed by my supposed best friend. I'd also introduced Claire to him and messed things up for her too. After the worst night's sleep ever, I woke up and knew what I needed to do. So I went straight to Noah's office and resigned. After this incident, I was unable to continue working at the company. I really hoped that after I left, Ben and Claire wouldn't be held responsible anymore. Then I said, "It was me." I revealed the detailed blueprint to Ben. "Don't blame him. Blame me." His face turned red when he said, "What? How could you? Unexpectedly, you dared to sell the company outright because of your lover? I have nothing more to say to you. Go out." His words were like sharp knives stabbing into my heart. I guess a part of me hoped he wouldn't believe me and wouldn't let me go, but turns out I was wrong. There was nothing left for me here now. As I walked out of his office, I stood helplessly against the wall, then burst into tears. I couldn't do anything more. So I stopped crying, then went over to my desk and packed up my things. That night I lay in bed in a daze until I fell asleep. The next morning, my ringing phone woke me up. I couldn't believe what I saw. Hey, it's Sarah here with the final part of my story. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. So in the last episode, I found out that Ben had betrayed me, and in doing so ruined my career. So I took the blame and left my job, but I had no idea what I was meant to do next. My ringing phone woke me up. What was going on? I drowsily reached for it, then saw tons of messages from my friends and colleagues. I skimmed through them, and to my surprise, they all included the same link. Okay, this was strange. I clicked on it and found that it was a video of Ben and Claire. I pressed play, and in it, a crying Claire admitted that she was the person who had revealed my design to Ben. And Ben said that led on by personal reasons, he'd slandered me for being a copycat. Both of them apologized to the company and to me. I scrolled down. There were thousands of comments below their video, and most of them were negative, calling them traitors and so on. I called Claire to check on her, but her phone was off. She was probably avoiding all of the horrible comments. I hoped she was with Ben now, and they could rely on each other to get through this difficult time. After hearing that Claire was begging for his fault, Ben must have realized that he was terribly wrong, then came to her to correct everything. So, the truth was out, but I didn't feel good about this. Instead, all I felt was sad. Noah thought I was capable of betraying him, when this whole vindictive plan had been Ashley's. At that point, I saw tens of messages and missed calls from Noah, but I didn't want to answer just to hear him feeling sorry for me. It hurted me so bad, thinking that when the incident happened, all he cared about was her demand and her family's shares in the company, and that I was nothing to him but a betrayer. My heart ached. Then suddenly there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Noah standing there. He was panting and his shirt was damp with sweat. "What? Why are you here?" I asked. As soon as seeing me, he hugged me tightly. "What's wrong?" I asked. After some seconds, he said, "You didn't answer, so I was afraid something bad had happened. You were sad and I was so cruel," and I just smiled at him. "See, I'm totally good." Then I asked him to come in. At least I should hide my feelings and treat him like a friend, right? We sat on the couch and Noah kept staring at me. I joked, "Is there anything on my face?" He said seriously, "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I watched the video this morning and it's all my fault for not believing you." I replied, "Yeah, that hurt, but you're the boss, so you did what you had to do." Without letting me finish my sentence, he continued, "No, there was no excuse for not believing you. Ben texted me last night and told me everything. He said he loved you, but you don't feel the same, and this made him act like a jerk." So now, no one knew the truth, but for what? He had Ashley and he was marrying her. I smiled at him and said, "It's okay. It's all over. You should care about Ashley more than you thought. This might not happen if she didn't feel insecure that much about your relationship. You have Ashley, so take care of her." He was flustered and then tried to explain, "Sarah, please hear me out. I want you. I always have. I only turned you down because Ashley threatened me." So it turned out that Ashley threatened to destroy my career and make my life a misery at all cost if he dared to break up with her. "That's why I turned you down. I know she really means what she says, and I just want to keep you safe away from her. Little did I know that Ashley tried to wreck your life regardless, he said. Then he gave me a determined look and continued, Sarah, I tried to ignore my feelings for you, to please my family once before when we were in high school, and I almost lost you again for that damn family company. But now I realize that without you, everything is meaningless. Please forgive me. I couldn't believe this was happening. Finally, we could be together, right? We'd both wasted enough time, but could it really be that simple? He could see me hesitating and immediately grabbed my hand and insisted I go with him somewhere. I asked him where, but he just smiled, patted my head, and said I'd know soon enough. I was kind of confused, but looking at his determined eyes, I knew I could trust him. As we pulled up to this impressive mansion, I realized that I'd been here before, back at the party where Ashley humiliated me. This was her family's home. I was hesitant, but he assured me it'd be okay and led me inside. There I saw Mr. Adams sitting on the couch and reading the newspaper. I turned to Noah and whispered, What are we doing here? He looked right into my eyes and said, Getting you the justice you deserve. Mr. Adams heard the noise and looked back, seeing me and Noah. He was kind of surprised. Noah, are you here to find Ashley? She's still in her room. And is this lady... Yes, this is Sarah, the daughter of the fireman who saved Ashley's life. Mr. Adams gasped in surprise, then said, Oh, it is you! How is your father? I smiled politely and said, It's nice to meet you. My dad is fine, thanks. Then he asked me some questions about my dad and my job. He was so surprised to know that I was working in Noah's company. Then Noah said, Mr. Adams, I have something to say. And then he told him everything about how Ashley had teased me 5 years ago and the reason why I moved back to my previous school. Then he told him how she'd planned to ruin my career. Mr. Adams was furious. He immediately called Ashley to come downstairs. Ashley's face was priceless. When she stepped down and saw me sitting in her house, she muttered out, What are you doing here? Mr. Adams told her to sit down, then said, Tell me what you did to Sarah, now. She yelled back, Dad, nothing. Then she turned to me, First, you stole my fiancé, and now you're slandering me to my own father? You're such a liar. Mr. Adams angrily said, Stop lying, Ashley. Noah told me everything, and I believe him. Sarah's father saved your life, and as a result of his injuries, he had to give up the job he loved. Yet you did this to his daughter? Why? Ashley looked furious. It seemed that her dad had never scolded her before. She shouted, Yes, I did everything, but she betrayed me first. I thought we were friends, but she tried to steal Noah from me back at school, and she's still trying to do it now, even though she knows we're engaged. At this moment, Noah spoke out. It's all my fault, so stop blaming Sarah. Back then, I didn't stand up for her, but I won't be that cowardly again. Ashley held back her tears. Honestly, I felt bad for her, so I motioned Noah to stop talking. He just held my hand tight and turned to Mr. Adams, then continued, I didn't dare to confess my feelings because I was scared that you would withdraw your shares. But now I don't want to hide my love anymore. For me, the engagement was just a business thing. I don't love Ashley. Sarah is always the one I love, and I want to cancel the wedding. No matter what you do, Mr. Adams, I'll accept it. Mr. Adams sighed. Sarah, on behalf of my daughter, I'm so sorry for what she did to you. Tomorrow, I'll organize a press conference to officially announce the truth to the public and vindicate you. Then he looked at Noah and continued, And Noah, don't worry about the company. As for me, work is work, and it doesn't relate to personal affairs. Then he turned to Ashley. Remember, Ashley, you can't force someone to love you because this will bring you nothing but pain and turn you into someone you don't want to be. The next day, the press conference was held, and the room was packed with journalists. Mr. Adams officially confirmed that Ben and Claire's confession video was true, and I was innocent. He also affirmed my talent. He said that he wouldn't investigate this more because Ben and Claire were also talented artists who made one bad lapse in judgment, and as a clear-sighted investor, he would keep facilitating young talented creators. He didn't mention anything about Ashley's fault, but then this was expected, as she was his daughter. On the way back home, I received a video message from Claire. Contrary to the complicated situation here, Claire and Ben were enjoying a trip on a remote island. Through all this mess, they'd found love, and I was so happy for them both. I did always say that given time, they'd make the perfect couple. Seeing how happy they were reminded me of my relationship with Noah. We loved each other, but couldn't be free to show it like they do. I avoided to face him, as technically he was still engaged to Ashley, and the last thing I wanted was to be a wrecker. Then one evening, Ashley messaged me saying, "I'm at Terrace Cafe. I have something to say to you. Don't keep me waiting." Ugh, what could she possibly want to say to me? I was so curious, though. So I went to meet her. I arrived to find her and Noah sitting at a table and chatting to each other. I was kind of worried, and my legs seemed to be stuck to the ground. I didn't dare to walk toward them. She called me out to let me see how they looked good together, didn't she? I was about to leave, but at that point, Noah saw me and he immediately came toward me and led me to the seat. Ashley said to me, "You see, we are back together." I should know how ridiculous she was before agreeing to come. Now I stuck myself in this humiliating situation. Suddenly, Ashley laughed out loud and said, "Just kidding, don't be so serious. Look, I'm sorry. I behaved badly and disappointed my father. So I've decided that you can have Noah." Then she smiled, "But don't expect me to wish you happiness or anything." To my surprise, Noah turned me around to face him and said, "We are no longer engaged. Now I'm officially yours, Sarah, if you let me." I almost cried happy tears when Noah asked me, and I never thought that I finally could say yes to him right in front of my used-to-be enemy. 3 months later, everything returned to some sort of normal. Everyone in the company knew that Noah and I were dating, and they all were happy for us. I spent most of my time sculpting, and it was great to follow my passion. As for Ashley, news is she's doing a master's course in England. And as for Claire and Ben, well, their love continued to blossom so fast that after just months of being together, they announced their wedding. Noah came with me to the ceremony, but as soon as we got there, he had to rush off to solve some issues at the company. I was kind of disappointed, but I tried not to show it, as it was my best friend's wedding, and I was so happy for them both. Then Claire threw the bouquet, and as the belief goes, I wanted to be the one to catch it and marry next. We were all ready to leap for it, but then Claire turned back and walked away. We were so confused. What was she doing? Then she walked towards someone. It was Noah. Noah? He was back from work? She gave him the bouquet, and he immediately ran toward me. And to my surprise, he got down on one knee, handed me the bouquet, pulled out this amazing diamond ring, and said, "Sarah, I don't want to lose any more time due to my dumb mistakes. I want to protect you and spend my life with you. So what do you think? Will you marry me?" I couldn't believe my eyes. Noah had this whole thing planned. It was so romantic. I blushed and obviously said yes. Then to cheering and applause, we kissed. Now I'm engaged to the man of my dreams, and hopefully no more obstacles will get in the way of our love. But if they do, well then I say bring them on, as love conquers all. Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm 17. Have you ever been brave enough to change the things that you were too familiar with? If yes, did you encounter any difficulties? Well, for me, yeah. It's more than just changes. And this is the story of what happened to me last summer. And it's really crazy, so brace yourself. So, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. When I say small, I mean it. It only had a population of 85 people. There was just one gas station, 2 small parks, 1 grocery store, and oh yeah, only 1 school. Including me, there were only 7 kids in my grade. That's right, 7 people. And my grade was one of the biggest ones. From when I was 5 years old to the time I was 15, I spent most of my time with the same 6 classmates. After being with them for many years, most of them really started to get on my nerves. Well, apart from Rosie. Rosie and I became BFFs in 3rd grade. Some other kids were teasing me about my red hair and told me that I looked like a tomato. But then Rosie appeared by my side and told them to back off. From then on, we became best friends and were pretty much inseparable. My life was good. I felt safe in my little town where everyone knew each other. In a city, there were way too many people for my liking, and too much pressure to be popular. And I didn't want that. I knew a small town life was the life for me. But then, when I was 16, everything changed. On one Saturday afternoon, I was at Rosie's house watching a movie when my parents called me and told me to come home at once. I thought this was kind of weird because my parents didn't usually call me to come home until it was late at night. And right now it was only 4:30 p.m. What did they need me to come home for? I arrived home to find Jake, my brother, crying. I bursted out loud. What happened? What was going on? Seeing me totally in shock, my dad said, "Ella, we have some news." What news was bad enough to make my brother, who wasn't the emotional type, cry? Did someone have a serious illness? Had someone died? Oh no. Had my beloved dog Sally died? Then he said, "Ella, I've been offered a job in New York City." "What?" I yelled. "And he's taking it. This is an amazing opportunity for us all. And moving out of this town will be good for us. It'll be a great adventure," Mom said. New York? The biggest city in the entire country? No, I couldn't move there. I didn't want a new adventure. I was perfectly happy where we lived now, and I didn't want to leave. But however much I sulked, shouted, or pleaded with my parents to stay, their minds were made up, and we were moving. Telling Rosie was horrible. She got so upset, and I felt awful about it. I didn't want to leave her, but what choice did I have? I spent my last day in town with her. We ate pizza, watched our favorite movies, played our favorite video games, and things like that. When it was time for me to leave, I gave her my unicorn plushie to remember me by. Then we cried into each other's arms, and we promised to text each other every single day. So, I left the safety of my little town and moved to the city. Our new house was much smaller than my old one, but at least we could keep Sally. On my first day of school, I was terrified. There were so many people, and I didn't know where I was meant to go or what I was meant to do. Luckily, the kids there were actually really nice. This one girl showed me where my locker was, and some other kids let me sit with them at lunchtime. After only a few weeks of living in New York, I started to find my bearings. I even figured out how to navigate the underground. I made some pretty great friends, but this didn't change the fact that Rosie was still my BFF. I texted her every day, and sometimes we spent hours on the phone with each other. A month of city life passed, and I got talking to this boy in my English class called Alex. He had the most amazing blonde hair, and his eyes, they were blue like the sky and the ocean, and a swimming pool, and yeah, if you couldn't tell, I really liked Alex. Not only was he unbelievably cute, but he was also kind and funny. We bonded over our love of video games and dogs and soon became pretty close. Then one day, he invited me over to his apartment to hang out. Then over a giant pizza and a movie, he told me he liked me and asked me to be his girlfriend. I instantly said yes! I was so excited and couldn't wait to tell Rosie, but she didn't seem all that thrilled about it. For a few months, everything was perfect for me. School life was great, and I had some awesome friends and an amazing boyfriend. Sadly, though, Rosie and I grew further apart. I barely had time to talk to her hours on the phone every night. It was like our timeline became different. She always called when I was busy, and when I texted her back, she wasn't there. I know that she always cared about me, but my busy life just carried me away. I told myself this was okay as things change. People get different friends. Though not as often as before, Rosie and I still chatted whenever we had a chance. One time I told her that I would be going out with Alex at a fancy restaurant the next day. Anytime I mentioned Alex, she seemed not cool with it. But that time she expressed her excitement and asked me a lot about our date. That made me feel so good. When the day came, I went to meet Alex at the restaurant that he had booked for us. I entered and waited for about 20 minutes for him to show. I began to get impatient and asked a waiter if he'd seen a boy with blonde hair and blue eyes come in at all. The waiter told me he had, but he'd left with a tall girl with long brown hair and brown eyes. What? Who was the girl he left with? And why? I thought of everyone I knew who fit that description. I couldn't think of anyone. Except for Rosie. But she lived in Pennsylvania. Why would she be here talking to my boyfriend? I decided to call Alex, but he sounded muffled, and I heard a girl talking in the background. It sounded like they were arguing, and then the call ended. This was so weird. What happened? I had no idea what was going on, so I headed home. On my way, I felt like someone was following me. And then I realized that there was one car driving very slowly after me. When I tried stopping, it also stopped. Oh my God. Was it having anything to do with me? I felt terrified and started to run as quick as I could until I reached my house. I turned back and saw that car parked outside my house. I was shaking as I tried to open the door. And as I did, Sally zoomed past me and ran toward the car. I had only seen her act that way whenever Alex came over. She really liked Alex. Wait, Alex? That was it. Alex was in that car. Was it a prank? I ran over to see what the heck was going on. There, sitting in the driver's seat, was Rosie. And to my complete shock, Alex was tied up in the back seat. "Rosie!" I screamed. "What are you doing here in New York with my boyfriend?" Alex screamed, "Help! She told me you were waiting for me in her car, then she kidnapped me." Rosie quickly turned around and looked me right in the face. "Oh, hi, Ella. What are you doing with my boyfriend?" "He's not a good guy for you, Ella. I need you to break up with him now, or else I will drive away so you can never find him ever." "Are you crazy? We will not break up just because you demand me to do that. Now let him go." I walked around to the passenger door to get Alex, but then the car started moving, fast. I ran after the car, but I was too slow. But Sally ran after it too, and she didn't stop. She almost got hit by cars as she ran through traffic until she was out of sight. I was so scared. I was about to call the cops when I saw a police car zoom past me. How did they know about this already? Who called 911? I looked back and saw my mom standing outside with the phone waving at me nervously. She had seen all the commotion and called the cops. Thanks, Mom. There was nothing I could do now except wait. It was awful. I was so anxious. About an hour later, a cop car pulled up to our house. The cop stepped out and opened the back door, and out came Sally. I ran up to the police car and hugged Sally. She was safe. But what about Alex? The officer told me that they'd chased the car for almost 2 miles until they cornered it on a dead-end street. He said that Rosie was very fierce and tried resisting arrest, but they'd taken her to the station. To my relief, Alex was fine, and they dropped him back home. Phew. I just didn't understand it. Rosie was my best friend. Why would she try to seriously harm my boyfriend? I later found out that Rosie was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's a disorder that causes people to go through extreme mood swings and do things that are out of character and crazy. Rosie had a lot going on. As well as me not being around anymore, her dad had moved out. I didn't know this as she hadn't told me. Back then, I wasn't talking all that much to her, but I'd never expected that the separation Rosie felt was too much for her and could lead her to bipolar disorder. I was her only one at that time, so she wanted her to be my only one too. But Alex appeared and made her feel insecure and seriously jealous. It is fortunate there are no serious consequences. I really hope Rosie gets the proper treatment for her disorder. We might not be as close anymore, but in my eyes, she'll always be the girl who was there for me when I was being teased, and I will always regret that I wasn't there to listen to her more when she needed me. I still feel sad about it all, but I'm trying to see the positives. Things with Alex are going great, and I'm happy here. It turns out city life is for me after all. Whether it's in friendship or love, people still need their own space. And sometimes, as sad as it is, people do grow apart. This happens in life. Being overjealous doesn't help mend things. It just pushes the other person further away.